Welcome to the deep dive. Today our mission is to decode a single, incredibly dense piece of media.
Oh, yeah. Very dense.
Yeah, we're looking at just one page today. But the sheer volume of promises and like escalating rhetoric and just the visual messaging packed onto this single canvas is staggering.
It really is.
It is the front cover of a book, and it's titled The Superhuman Lifestyle by Radheshyam More.
Right.
And to start, I think we need to think about your standard self-improvement book, because usually there is this expectation of targeted optimization.
Like a specific fix for a specific problem.
Exactly. You go to a physical therapist for a specific ache, or you have bad posture, so the book offers stretches,
Right.
or you have trouble saving money, the book gives you a budgeting template. It's a localized diagnosis for a localized problem.
And that localized framework is comforting.
Yeah.
Because it keeps the scope of the problem manageable. You know, you isolate the variable you want to change, you apply a method, and you see a result.
Right. It's contained.
It feels like a very clean, rational transaction between the author and the reader.
But then you encounter a piece of media that completely shatters that localized framework.
Oh, completely.
And suddenly that targeted physical therapy session is just thrown out the window. We are looking at a diagnostic landscape that is entirely encompassing here.
Yes, it leaves nothing out.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because right out of the gate, the title and the subtitle hit you with an unbelievable contrast.
It's quite the pairing.
We have the superhuman lifestyle in these massive, bold letters, which sounds like, peak ultimate optimization.
Right, the pinnacle of human achievement.
Yeah, but right underneath it, in red text, is the subtitle. And it reads, A Guide to Man and Society in Sexual Crisis.
Which is just such a jarring shift. What's fascinating here is the rhetorical utility of the word crisis.
Right.
When an author frames a societal issue as a crisis right on the cover, it bypasses casual interest.
It really does.
It creates this immediate visceral urgency because a problem is something you can affect to solve tomorrow.
Sure.
But a crisis demands your attention right this second. It triggers a fight-or-flight response before you've even opened the book.
I look at that pairing, and it feels like opening a standard fitness book that promises to give you, like, six-pack abs, but in the very first sentence, it diagnoses the entire world with a compound fracture.
That is a great way to put it, yeah.
It is this massive juxtaposition. Because on one hand, you have the promise of becoming superhuman.
Literally operating above normal human capacity.
Exactly, above and beyond. But on the other hand, you have a profound foundational dysfunction, which he's calling a sexual crisis.
And notice how the subtitle directly links the micro-level man to the macro-level society.
Yes, they are tied right together.
The cover is suggesting that adopting the superhuman lifestyle isn't merely a personal upgrade.
It's not just a hobby.
No, it's not just about you feeling better on a Tuesday or having a bit more energy. It frames personal optimization as a necessary rescue mission for civilization itself.
Wow.
By linking the individual man to the broader society, the individual state of being becomes entirely enmeshed with the survival of the culture.
Which completely shifts the burden of responsibility. I mean, if you've ever scrolled through social media and felt overwhelmed by the pressure to optimize your sleep or your diet or your mindset, you are the exact target audience for this imagery.
Oh, absolutely.
But instead of saying you're failing at your own life, the author is telling you that your personal struggles are actually symptoms of this broader societal collapse.
Right. It's not entirely your fault.
Yeah, it gives you a heroic quest rather than a personal guilt trip.
It relieves the reader of isolated failure. You aren't struggling because you are flawed. You are struggling because the world is in crisis.
That is so appealing.
It is. And if we follow that logic, it sets up the next section of the cover perfectly. Because if the individual is the linchpin for society, the stakes of an individual's failure have to be astronomical.
And the author certainly doesn't hold back on those stakes.
Not at all.
If we are in a crisis, we need to know the scope of the danger. And this cover escalates those stakes at breakneck speed.
It's a rapid escalation.
Right in the middle of the page, beneath a row of icons, is a sentence written in bright red. And it reads, a radical solution to physical, emotional, familial, social, national, and global health hazards.
It just keeps going.
I mean, I have to push back on the sheer weight of this claim. How does one go from having a physical or an emotional issue to suddenly being a global health hazard?
It's a jump, for sure.
I read that and thought, is he implying some sort of contagion effect? It feels like a massive leap in logic to place the burden of global health squarely on the shoulders of an individual's lifestyle.
It does feel like a leap when you read it as a single breath, but if you break down the structure of that sentence, the author is outlining a very deliberate, literal chain reaction.
Okay.
It's a domino effect visualized in text. Based on the subtitle, the core trigger is a sexual crisis.
Right, that's the starting point.
That is the first domino. When that falls, it destabilizes the individual physically and emotionally. So that's your second and third dominoes.
Okay, I follow that.
But humans don't live in a vacuum.
Yeah.
A physically and emotionally destabilized individual then interacts with their family, fracturing the familial unit.
I see how a fractured family destabilizes a community, sure. But the jump from a community problem to a global hazard still feels like the author is just, I don't know, throwing dictionary words at the wall to see what sticks.
It sounds extreme.
Does broken community inherently threaten the globe?
Well, in the rhetorical world this cover is building, absolutely. When communities fracture, national health is compromised.
Right.
And in an interconnected modern era, a national hazard inevitably becomes a global health hazard. The cover is visually arguing that global catastrophe is simply the final magnification of an individual's internal crisis.
So the author needs the stakes to be global to justify the intensity of the cure.
Precisely.
If you just offered a solution to emotional hazards, a yoga class might suffice.
Right, or some light therapy.
Yeah, but to stop a global chain reaction of that magnitude, you require the radical solution he advertises.
Yes.
It's a psychological scaling tactic.
Yeah.
If you believe you are saving the world, dedicating yourself to his methodology seems like a totally reasonable response.
The extreme diagnosis justifies the extreme intervention. If the house is on fire, you don't worry about water damage from the fire hose.
No, you definitely don't. And the cover doesn't hide what kind of fire hose it plans to use. It advertises its tools right there.
Front and center.
The imagery the author uses to explain this methodology is an incredibly eclectic mix.
It's a very unique combination of symbols.
Moving left to right across the middle of the cover, we start with interlocking male and female gender symbols. Classic, universally understood.
Very straightforward.
Next to that, there's a silhouette of a human head. But the brain is brightly glowing, and there are literal lightning bolts shooting out of it.
A very aggressive visual metaphor for elevated mental activity.
Yeah.
It's almost bordering on a superpower.
Then, right next to the lightning brain, we have a figure sitting in a classic yoga or meditation pose.
Okay.
Immediately following that, there are two large sperm cells.
This is unexpected.
Very. And finally, on the far right, a line drawing of a couple embracing.
Yeah.
So the cover advertises its tools right there. And looking at this row of icons, here's where it gets really interesting.
Let's hear it.
It is a blender recipe of different disciplines.
Oh, absolutely.
We have biology and reproductive imagery with the sperm, mindfulness and ancient practice with the yoga figure, relationships with the gender symbols and the couple,
Right.
and then this highly charged, almost sci-fi mental imagery with the lightning brain.
The author is intentionally bridging Eastern mysticism, which is represented by the yoga figure, with modern, highly charged biological optimization.
It's a wild mix.
It is. This isn't a random assortment of clip art. It's a calculated marketing mechanism.
And it's anchored by another crucial piece of text on the left side of the cover. There is a prominent circular red badge stamped right next to those icons.
Oh, yes, the badge.
And it reads, 1M plus lives, transformed by brain rewire courses.
Right.
That phrase, brain rewire, feels like tech jargon dropped right into the middle of biology and mindfulness.
It does. And that phrase is the skeleton key to understanding this entire methodology.
How so?
Well, when you use a term like rewire in the context of human behavior, you are utilizing a very specific mechanistic framework.
Okay.
You are implying that the societal crisis being discussed isn't a moral failing or an organic disease, but rather a software problem in the human mind.
Oh, I see.
The wiring has gotten crossed, and it simply needs to be rerouted.
It's treating human biology like a circuit board.
Exactly.
But here's the catch. If you're a circuit board, you don't need years of difficult introspective therapy to fix your problems.
Right, you don't have to unpack your childhood.
No, you just need to find the right switch to flip.
Which is very appealing.
That is the seductive power of this cover. It promises a mechanical shortcut to enlightenment. You aren't a bad person making bad choices. You're just a computer with a glitchy operating system.
Removing moral guilt makes the cure feel scientific, immediate, and effortless. Look at the juxtaposition of the icons through that lens.
Okay, let's look.
You have the raw sexual biology, the sperm cells and the gender symbols placed alongside the tools of mental optimization.
The glowing brain and the meditating figure.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the cover seems to be outlining a system where the author views human biology as programmable raw material.
Programmable, yeah.
By rewiring the brain, an individual can take unrefined physical biological energy and reroute it into optimized mental power.
So you take the power from one component, the sexual crisis, and you solder a new connection to power up the glowing lightning brain.
You literally redirect the current.
Wow. And because the circuit port is mechanical, it implies that this transformation is repeatable and accessible to anyone willing to buy these specific courses.
It's a scalable solution, at least in theory.
Which brings us to the visual centerpiece of the cover. We've established the global crisis. We've outlined the tech meets biology methodology.
A problem in the tool?
Right, but what does the final reprogrammed human actually look like? The bottom half of the cover gives us a literal, step-by-step visual map of this transformation.
It's very striking. It borrows heavily from the classic March of Progress illustration, the famous drawing showing the evolution from apes to modern humans.
Oh, right, yeah.
But here, it is charting the evolution of a single man across 4 distinct stages.
The graphic at the bottom is essentially the classic Virgin versus Chad internet meme, but sanitized for a self-help cover.
It definitely shares that DNA.
So what does this all mean? Let's walk through it. Stage 1 is set against a harsh red background.
The primal universal color for warning, danger, or stopping.
Exactly. And the figure is a silhouette of a man who is severely slouched over. His shoulders are rounded, his head is hanging down. He looks depleted, defeated, and weak.
It's a very sad posture.
This is the visual representation of the crisis and the health hazard.
It is the physical manifestation of both internal defeat and societal breakdown. The slouch is the universal posture of submission and failure in modern internet culture.
It really is. Then we move to stage 2. The background transitions to a yellowish orange. The man is standing slightly straighter, but his head is still bowed down, and his arms are just hanging limply at his sides.
He's in a transitional purgatory.
Yeah, he's getting there, but not quite. Then, in stage 3, the background shifts to a bright green yellow. The man is now standing completely upright, chest out.
Looking much better.
And in one hand, he is holding a dumbbell down by his side.
Which is a very specific detail.
Yes. And finally, stage 4. The background is a solid, vibrant green, the universal color for go, vitality, and optimal health.
The finish line.
Right. The man is standing perfectly straight. His physical form looks sharp, and his brain is brightly colored, glowing, with those yellow lightning bolts shooting out of the top of his head.
The visual narrative of posture here is incredibly striking. It charts a course from submission to dominance, communicating the entire philosophy of the book without a single word.
It does. But I have to ask a playful yet pointed question about this sequence, though.
Go for it.
We go from a slouched, defeated man in the red zone to a guy who picks up a dumbbell in the green-yellow zone to a guy whose brain is literally shooting lightning.
That is the progression, yes.
Does simply lifting a dumbbell in stage 3 directly trigger your brain to shoot actual lightning bolts in stage 4?
That's a fair question.
It feels almost absurd when you say it out loud, but that is the literal sequence on the page.
It highlights the specific progression the author chose to mandate. The visual narrative insists that before you can reach ultimate mental mastery, you must pass through a stage of physical strength.
Interesting.
This raises an important question about the book's underlying philosophy. The sequence on the cover visually argues that physical strength and fitness, represented by the dumbbell, are mandatory prerequisites to achieving the ultimate lightning brain state.
So you can't just meditate your way out of the crisis while still slouching.
No, the visual says otherwise.
You can't just think your way to becoming superhuman. You have to physically build the vessel first. It's a very modern self-help trope, honestly. You can't just be smart or spiritually enlightened anymore. You also have to be physically jacked.
It's all connected now. The rewiring of the software, as we discussed with the circuit board analogy, seemingly requires a complete upgrade of the hardware.
Right. You need a new casing for the new operating system.
The physical collapse of the crisis must be answered with physical rebuilding. The dumbbell acts as the foundation. It provides the structural integrity needed to withstand the final ascension into ultimate mental and physical mastery.
When you step back and look at the cover as a whole, it is a remarkably complete story, told entirely through color, posture, and a few strategic icons.
Which is highly effective communication.
It is.
Yeah.
It's promising a highly structured, almost algorithmic path out of a profound state of societal and sexual crisis.
Yes.
It's offering to take an individual from a slouched, hazardous liability in the red zone and rewire them into a physically strong, glowing-brained superhuman in the green zone,
It is an incredibly ambitious promise.
to say the least.
The author is synthesizing biological energy, mental discipline, and physical fitness into a singular world-saving solution.
Yeah.
It taps into the anxiety of the modern reader, validates their feeling that the world is broken, and offers them a clear, mechanical blueprint to become the hero who fixes it.
But as we synthesize all this, there is a fascinating tension on the cover that I keep coming back to.
Oh, what's that?
We spent a lot of time analyzing this evolutionary graphic at the bottom, and it depicts a very linear, very individual path.
True, it's just one person.
It is one man's journey from
Wow.
crisis to superhuman. But then you look back up at that prominent red badge on the left side of the cover.
The brain rewire badge.
Yeah. It doesn't say this is a theoretical path or a hopeful goal. It claims, in bold text, that over 1 million lives have already been transformed by these courses.
That is a staggering metric of success to advertise on a front cover.
It really is.
Claiming over 1 million literal transformations moves the premise from a niche self-help philosophy to a massive cultural movement.
Which leaves us with a highly provocative thought to ponder.
Okay, lay it on me.
Let's follow the internal logic of the cover. The individual sexual crisis is the root cause of global health hazards. And to save the world, we must rewire the individual.
That is the claim.
Now, let's accept the badge's claim that there are currently over 1 million of these optimized, physically fit, glowing-brained superhumans already walking among us right now.
1 million of them.
At what tipping point does that critical mass actually start to visibly reverse the national and global health hazards the book warns us about?
That is the million-dollar question. If 1 million people have already evolved past the crisis, moving from the red zone to the green zone, you would expect the global dominoes to start standing back up.
Right.
You would expect to see the societal impact of 1 million superhumans.
Going back to where we started, if the X-ray shows a whole world has a broken leg, and 1 million people have supposedly already taken the radical cure, you have to wonder when the rest of us are going to see the cast come off.
It certainly makes you view the people standing upright around you in a slightly different, perhaps more electrified light.
Yeah, for sure.
Are they just practicing good posture, or have they been rewired?
It's definitely something to mull over next time you see someone with perfect posture holding a dumbbell. Until next time.